Welcome everyone. This is my first video for By Georgia Grace. I'm really excited and also really nervous about it. So I didn't really know what to talk about. I think I'm going to try and do some content related to beauty and skincare. Please let me know in the comments if you have any topics or ideas for a video that you would really love to see. But I figured today I would talk about pregnancy for the first time. I have been meaning to make a pregnancy update, and I don't even think I made a pregnancy announcement. Like, I made one on Instagram, and then I was going to do one, but somehow time got away from me. And now I'm 20 weeks pregnant, which is so crazy. It's gone super, super fast. I feel like just a second ago I was like 12 weeks pregnant, and like just a second ago I got pregnant. And it's like the time has just flown by. It's so crazy. So, yeah, so I guess I'll just start at the beginning. I am just not used to like sitting here talking. So I got pregnant back in December, and right after Christmas, like the beginning of January, the new year, was really the first time I was around like 5.5 to 6 weeks pregnant. Well, yeah. And that was when I first started getting morning sickness, and it was just very, on a scale of 1 to 10, like 1 not being nauseous at all and 10 being throwing up constantly, I would say that it was around like a 2 to 4. And it was very easily controlled. If I would just eat something whenever I was feeling nauseous, it would go away. And then from week 6 to 13, I was super, super nauseous, like constant all day, like on a scale of 1 to 10, it would be like between like a 7 and an 8 all day long. Like, I constantly felt like I was about to throw up. But most of the time I didn't throw up, but I just pretty much stayed at home. I have to say I really admire people who have really horrible nausea or hyperemesis gravidarum, who just like go to work and get through it. I know the doctors can prescribe Zofran and like other anti-emetic, anti-nausea medications, but at the same time I was just so miserable. I didn't take any prescription. I think now they're much more reticent to prescribe medications. You know, if you don't like absolutely need them to be able to go to work during the day. And since I was able to stay home and just kind of like I just parked myself on the couch. I would just sit on the couch all day, and literally my husband would come home and he'd be like, what did you do today? And then I would be like, I sat here on the couch. And then like I tried, it took all of my energy to try and even think of something to eat, because everything, like, I couldn't handle it when I would go on the baby center forums and people would be like, oh, I'm craving this, I'm craving that. And I was like, ugh, all of you are disgusting. Why does everyone want to eat food right now? It's horrible. I hate food. I hate all of it. The only thing that sounded good to eat was fruit, pretty much any fruit. So like I ate a lot of grapefruit and like clementines and grapes and berries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries. But yeah, I mean, that's not really filling. And so I did rely a lot on my prenatal vitamins, but like, so I'm going to go through that in a minute. I thought I would go through like which prenatal vitamins I use and a few products that I have enjoyed using throughout pregnancy that I found helpful. But like I take a lot of prenatal vitamins, like 3 times a day, like 5 kind of big pills 3 times a day, and I usually just put them all in my mouth and like swallow them at once. And that like made me throw up every time. So I ended up having to like swallow them one at a time, which took a long time for like considering it's 5 pills and you have to do it 3 times a day. But I was able to get through, and so I was really glad that I had a really strong prenatal vitamin regimen in place to be able to support the baby. So I felt comfortable that I was getting all the nutrients that I needed, especially in those early weeks when it's super important, as the baby's DNA is being methylated, which is a really critical, like if you study epigenetics at all, it's a really critical like process by which methyl groups are placed strategically in certain places along the sequence of the DNA in order to activate or silence certain genes. And it's a really interesting field of research if you look on the NIH's website or PubMed. There are tons of really interesting peer-reviewed articles in medical journals about it. But anyway, yeah, I felt comfortable that I was getting the nutrients that I needed, what little that I could from food, and then, being supported by my prenatal vitamin regimen to be able to help the baby grow and develop properly. And yeah, then, sorry I rambled on about that for a while. So then at 13 weeks, 13 weeks, it really kind of like went away, and that was totally fantastic. Yeah, it was like such an amazing feeling of freedom. I remember specifically the first Sunday that I wasn't incredibly nauseous and feeling like puking. Like we didn't have any food in the house because I didn't go shopping at all because I was so nauseous all the time. And after church, normally we don't go shopping or we try not to spend money on Sundays so that we don't make other people have to work on Sunday. But I didn't have any food in the house, so I like went to this barbecue place that we really love, and I like ordered brisket and ribs and potato salad and some good coleslaw and like cornbread, and ate all of it, and it was the best thing ever. It was so great to be able to eat all that food and enjoy eating that food and not be totally nauseated and disgusting by the thought of any of it. So that was, yeah, the morning sickness was really tough, but I'm so glad that I got through it, and I seem to be, so far I've had smooth sailing. I've had a couple of days where I was like kind of nauseous again, like between a 2 and a 4, but that's nothing now compared to the like constant nausea. And towards the last 3 weeks of my morning sickness, it was interesting. I actually started like, at the beginning I would feel really nauseous all day, but I wouldn't throw up a lot. But towards the end I was really like throwing up pretty regularly. I ended up throwing up. My friends and I went to the gym and we went swimming, and then like afterwards I felt nauseous and I ended up throwing up in the shower, and like multiple women came up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I literally, like, as I'm leaning over the drain in the shower, like puking, I was like, I'm fine, I'm pregnant. And then they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm okay, I'm pregnant, I'm just throwing up from morning sickness." Like literally as in between, like I'm taking a breath, gasping for air while I'm puking. Sorry if this is a disgusting picture. But then they were like, "Oh, yes, we've been there." So I thought it was nice that people were sympathetic. And then, yeah, another time my husband was like, "Oh, let's go on a drive and like look at houses on a Saturday." And the whole time I was just like sitting in the seat. I was like, he would be like, "Look over there at that house." I'd be like, "I can't turn my head. I'm going to throw up on you. Like, I don't think you understand. I'm going to throw up any second." And I was saying this for like 30 minutes. And then finally, like, finally it happened, and I just rolled down the window and started throwing up, and thankfully it was kind of like next to this park, so he like pulled over, and like right as I'm leaning out the window, like just puking. I'm sure this is like a really pleasant first video for people to watch of me to get to know me. But yeah, I was just like leaning out the window, pretty much like projectile vomiting because I had eaten before we left. And like this woman walking her 2 dogs walked by, and it was super funny because she was clearly trying to not look at me, to not make me feel self-conscious, but both of her dogs were like staring at me, and they were staring and like doing the thing on the leash where they're like desperately like trying to get over to me, clearly because they could smell the throw up and they probably wanted to like sniff at it, which is super disgusting. But I was like, yeah, it's okay. I know that you can see me here because it would be impossible to ignore a person puking violently out of the window of their car. So, like, thank you for trying to not make us both feel really awkward. The sentiment is appreciated, but yeah, it didn't really work out. So, yeah, you can imagine how relieved I was to get to the end of all that and to be able to feel good again and eat food and like food. So yeah, it's been pretty good since then. And yeah, now the last 7 weeks, so now I'm 20 weeks, so I'm halfway through. They have been really great. Just my belly has been really big since pretty early on, and it's continued to be bigger than most people's bellies are at each stage, so yeah, it's pretty big now. It's not that crazy, but so I'm like 4.5 months pregnant, so I'd say it looks more like a 6 months pregnant belly. But yeah, like sometimes it's bloating, like after I eat it grows. So it's funny because it's like a food baby on top of a real baby, so it just looks like extra big baby. It's really funny, actually. And yes, yesterday, not yesterday, but the day before yesterday at night, that was the first time that AJ, my husband, got to feel the baby kick. He's been like desperate to feel her kick. Yeah, he was able to feel her kick. She was doing like really big kicks at 2 in the morning, and so I was like, quick, like put your hand on my stomach, and he did, and just then she did like a really big kick and it like moved his pinky finger, and he was super excited. So that was really fun. I've been feeling the baby kicking since like about 17 weeks. It was just kind of like really sporadic, maybe like once or twice a day I would feel her, and it's just increased since then. So now like multiple times a day I can feel her moving around in there, which is really exciting. So, except at night when trying to go to sleep and she's kind of like moving all around in there. But I know it's just going to get worse, so I probably shouldn't complain. Yeah, so that is, I totally lost my train of thought. So anyway, I guess I'll talk about, oh yeah, I was going to say, so I thought, like, I was really obsessed with feeling the baby kick at first, because I actually had, so this is my 3rd pregnancy, but my first baby. So I had for my first pregnancy I had a miscarriage. My second pregnancy I had another miscarriage, both of which were incredibly devastating, horrible, horrible experiences. Good experiences in the sense that, like, I know that pain helps us grow, and always, if we allow it, pain will always be able to teach us something and season us in a way that we simply, wouldn't be able to achieve, without the experience of pain. But at the same time, nobody likes horrible, miserable, painful experiences, or most people don't. So, and I'll talk about that in future videos. If y'all are interested, just let me know in the comments, if that's something you would want to know more about. I'll probably talk about it anyway, because I think it's important to talk about miscarriage. I think it's becoming less of a taboo subject, but I still don't feel like many people are, for different reasons. Sometimes, it makes people feel bad themselves to kind of relive the experience of having a miscarriage. But for me personally, I feel that it's kind of cathartic to be able to, just like be honest about it and not feel like you have to keep it to yourself, or, it might make somebody uncomfortable. And also, like, the times that I've talked about it, most of the time somebody else comes up to me and is like, oh my gosh, like, I had a miscarriage too, or like, I had multiple miscarriages too. And I think it just turns into a fantastic bonding experience for women. So yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. But yeah, because of those experiences of my first 2 miscarriages, I was like really, really paranoid at the beginning of the pregnancy. So like most people have their first like OB confirm appointment, where you have your first ultrasound, where they check and say, okay, you're pregnant. You get the positive pregnancy test, so you know you're pregnant, but that's what they have to do. They have to check it with the ultrasound just to make sure. And most people have that between 8 and 10 weeks, but I had mine at like 5 weeks, 6 days because I was like adamant that they would check it as soon as possible and like see if there was a baby there and if everything looked okay, based on like the miserable experiences that I had had before. And thankfully, huge blessing, we were able to see not just the little gestational sac and fetal pole at 5 weeks, 6 days, but we also heard a heartbeat, which, the heart starts beating around 5 weeks, between 5 and 6 weeks, but, a lot of people don't hear the heartbeat until later on. So it was amazing that we were able to hear a heartbeat in the normal range. My second miscarriage, there was a heartbeat, but it was bradycardic, so it was below the threshold, like a couple standard deviations below the mean for what it should have been. So that was a very bad sign that, probably a miscarriage was impending. So, hearing a healthy heartbeat, that was a huge hurdle personally, like mentally and emotionally for me, to be able to kind of help me relax and be like, okay, like this is a pregnancy, it's fine, like everything is good. So yes, what was I going to say next? Okay, yeah, we had that ultrasound, and then we had another one. Yeah, we had another one at 8 weeks, which was like their official confirmation appointment, where they measured the crown to rump length of the little gestational sac to see, or of the fetus, to see, if the dating was correct. I pretty much knew the dating was correct because I had been doing the Clear Blue Advanced Ovulation Predictor Kit, like the digital one that has like no fertility, high fertility, and peak fertility. So I pretty much like knew when I ovulated, but they still were doing that just to check anyway. My due date is August 28th, and yeah, so then after that, so after 8 weeks, my next ultrasound was at 12 weeks for the nuchal translucency test, where they are basically checking the thickness of the fluid in the back of the baby's neck to determine the likelihood of the baby having Down syndrome. So that was at 12 weeks, and I was just like the 4 weeks where I was waiting, I was like so mentally like stressed out and freaking out and sick, because I couldn't feel anything, you know. You just like, it was great actually. It was great that I was super sick, because that was like a great positive sign. Morning sickness is a sign of a healthy pregnancy, and like 70% of women get morning sickness to some extent, some worse than others. So I was glad that I was sick, because it meant to me that I was having a healthy pregnancy. But I had also like seen horror stories of women who, you know, had a morning sickness, had all these symptoms, you know, whatever, and then, you know, they go to an ultrasound and find out the baby died 2 weeks ago, you know. And like, having been through that experience myself twice before, I was just like so paranoid. So at 12 weeks, the ultrasound was totally fine. Everything looked perfect and amazing and wonderful, which was a huge, huge blessing. And then, oh yeah, so then everything I read was like, some people can feel the baby moving at 13 weeks, usually second-time moms, but like that's the earliest you can feel the baby move. So I was like hyper attuned to my body, like trying so hard to like focus in and like feel the baby move, because I was like, if I could just feel the baby move, then like I would know everything is okay and I could stop being so stressed out about it. And so I started feeling some twitches like around 12 weeks, like very sporadic, like once every 4 to 5 days. And I convinced myself that that was the baby and that I was feeling little baby flutters, even though a lot of things that I read were basically like, no, it's not anatomically possible for like a primiparous, which means like going to give birth the first time, for a primiparous woman to be able to feel the baby moving, you know, at that stage in the pregnancy. Like, the fetus is too small, you just can't feel it. But then I would go on these forums where, you know, there's women talking and they'd be like, don't listen to what the doctor tells you, you know, like if you think that's the baby, then that's the baby, which is irrational and illogical, but I was still just like, okay, it's the baby. So then at 13 weeks, like these little twitches that I had been feeling totally stopped. So you can imagine, I like completely freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like what's happened? Like the baby is gone, or like why isn't she moving? Like something is wrong. I'm sorry I keep on leaving out all this information. Yeah, so we found out that it was a girl at 10 weeks. I did one of those sneak peek DNA tests where you like prick your finger and get blood out and send it in for testing, and it was a girl, which was confirmed at our 12-week ultrasound, which we were super, super excited about. Yeah, so then at 15 weeks, I finally had my my next OB checkup, where they use the Doppler to listen for the heartbeat, and blessings again, she was able to find the heartbeat. It took her like a good 30 seconds, which freaked me out a little bit. I was trying not to freak out, but I was kind of freaking out. But then she found it, and it sounded great and everything. And then at 17 weeks, that was when I first started feeling real flutters. And I was like, okay, like this is the baby moving. And so, yeah, I guess my point is, like, I kind of unnecessarily freaked myself out by trying too hard to convince myself that, like, little twitches in the muscles of my body were the baby. But, yeah, so, I don't know if anybody else has a similar thing. Maybe don't freak out. But yeah, I've also found that people telling you not to freak out doesn't really help. If you're gonna freak out, you're gonna freak out. And if you're gonna Google stuff, you're gonna Google stuff, even though it's not a good idea to Google stuff, because it usually just leads to your brain going on that hamster wheel even more. I wanted to talk about a few things that have been really helpful to me during pregnancy. So I guess the first thing that I'll go through is my prenatal vitamin regimen. Actually, maybe I'm going to make a separate video for that. Yeah, so anyway, now I'm 20 weeks pregnant and just had my last ultrasound at 19 weeks for the anatomy scan. All my risk levels from my sequential blood DNA tests for trisomy 21 and trisomy 18, Down syndrome, and spina bifida came back, and they were all like the lowest possible risk, like 1 in 10,000, 1 in 10,000, and 1 in 6,000, which was amazing. And then all of her anatomical features looked good, as they should be, and the placenta looked good. I was diagnosed with a low-lying placenta, so they asked me to take it easy for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and they're going to do another ultrasound at the beginning of May to see. They only needed to move about 5 millimeters away from my cervix, and since the placenta is usually always migrating upward as the pregnancy progresses, they were not concerned at all that that would be able to be an achieved outcome, but they're going to check it anyway just to make sure. So yeah, I am so excited that this is my first video, and I cannot wait to do more videos and share more with you guys. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this video, and I guess I'll link like all the products that I use for my makeup in the... This is so weird because I have never posted a video on YouTube before. I guess I'll link all the products in the box below. I'm pointing at a box, and apparently there's a box down there. That's what I see people doing on YouTube, so there's a box. Yes, I will link the products there if you're interested in my makeup look. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye!